Welcome to the Fantasy Football Prophet Podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprophet.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Prophet Podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey, and today we're recapping Week 11 in the NFL. It's almost playoff time now, only 2 more weeks, so we're going to go over all the games today. We'll just jump right into it. We're going to start off with another disappointing day for the Lions. Lions lose to the Cowboys 35-27. Dak had a massive game. I mean, he's for real. Like, I can say for real. Like, we always kind of question whether or not he was a great fantasy quarterback, but I mean, he is now. This is just a great game. 444 yards, 3 touchdowns. And you see numbers like that, and you just like right away would probably assume, oh, Amari Cooper had a huge game. But it wasn't Amari Cooper today. Michael Gallup and Randall Cobb with huge games there. And Zeke really didn't have a big game. Only 45 yards on the ground and touchdowns. Just this passing attack with Gallup and Cobb today. Crazy to see.
Yeah, it was really interesting. And if you look at what Prescott has been able to do to give him his due, he's been flat out amazing this year. He really has. I mean, he has one bad fantasy outing, and every other one, I think then he has probably one I would consider good, and everything else is above 20 points, and he has quite a few that have hit 30 as well, including almost the last 3 weeks. So if you have him going down the stretch here, you're in good shape, though he does hit New England next week. But that's interesting. What do you I don't know, anything to take away? We had brought up Cobb before about putting him on your bench, possibly being able to use him. And we, kind of unsure. We thought that he would be an interesting case week to week. Do you still think that he is a hard one to tell whether or not he's going to perform? Or do you think that he is a suitable candidate to slide in your roster now?
I'm still kind of hesitant on Cobb, I guess, only because it was only, 4 catches today. I mean, he had a big one, for 49 yards. But the targets are still there, 8, 8, and 7. But I don't know. I worry when he's still the third option. I know he outperformed Cooper today, but it's just hard to trust a third option on an offense, no matter what offense it is, really. And so, I mean, but he's been... I mean, I keep saying this, maybe one more week and I'll believe it, but, one more week of targets. But he's had 2 good weeks in a row. I would worry putting him in my lineup right now. I don't know. How are you feeling about that?
I probably would give him a little more credit if they weren't about to hit New England and then Buffalo. I don't know. I mean, if you're playing the hot hand, I don't really mind it. If you're running low on wide receivers, I mean, the last 2 weeks he's gone over 100 yards and a touchdown. I'm not always, I'm not going to feel comfortable with him scoring touchdowns. He only has 3 on the year, but he is very, involved. And obviously everyone knows Amari Cooper is going to be the number 1 option. So he also has to take the brunt of the defense as well. So I think Cobb is kind of running around a little. He's just, I don't think they're game planning for him. No, I mean,
pretty much.
It's all that's what it's going to come down to, but it's a direct correlation with how Prescott has been doing the last 3 games as well. So, if they get into something where they're not going to throw it as much, I'm still waiting on one of these games where they just give it to Zeke and say, it's completely up to you. He got 16 carries today, but, and he's done fine this year, but it definitely hasn't been the usual for him comparatively the last 2 before this.
Yeah, especially the last 2 weeks. 36 carries the last 2 weeks for only 92 yards combined on the ground. So he'll be fine. I mean, he's shown enough this year. He's fine. He's still Zeke. It's just the way those 2 games went. I wouldn't worry too much about it. And then I guess the Lions side of things, I mean, there's just, without Stafford, with just random running backs out there, Bo Scarborough, who I haven't heard from since he played for Alabama. It's just not a lot to go over here. Marvin Jones did get himself 2 touchdowns, which gave himself a good day, but it was only 4 for 43, and Galladay's just struggling with Driscoll out there. So it's just really an offense you probably want to stay away from without Stafford.
Yeah, but it was interesting, though, because Driscoll, I mean, he played pretty well, and he had himself a very good fantasy day. I mean, surprisingly enough, I think he was, is he top 5?
Because of his,
or maybe
his
just outside. He was number 6. He scored 31 in standard.
His running ability gets him that, yeah.
It was pretty, so that's pretty impressive. He obviously threw for 2 touchdowns as well. He didn't throw a pick. Only 200 yards throwing, but he looked pretty good out there. I mean, it's not going to matter too much. Stafford comes back. I was a little more impressed with him than I thought I was going to be. And I'm not as low on their wide receivers. Jones had a day. Galladay only had that 1 catch. It was long for 34 yards. I'm kind of wondering what your thoughts are, especially in the weeks leading up. If Driscoll does get the start next week, say, I mean, how down are you on Galladay?
I mean, I'm still going to play him, but I don't like it. 3 for 57 last week, got himself a touchdown, but 1 for 34 this week. That's not 2 great games in a row. I mean, against Washington, though, anybody can probably get it done against Washington. So,
yeah, well, as we will cover, as we saw today.
Yeah, so I'm going to play him, but I don't feel as confident as I once did, but that's fine. He's good matchup. I guess next game, Colts, Jaguars, 33-13. Colts get the win. Brissett played pretty decent for him. I mean, he gets wins for this team. He does well. Fantasy-wise, it's not like pretty, but he got a rushing touchdown. So, again, makes it so it's not a terrible game. He made it, decent. That way, Marlon Mack looked really good up until he was hurt. Fractured hand, I believe.
Yeah, that's a big blow.
Yeah, so Jonathan Williams comes in for him and runs for 116 yards on 13 carries? Jeez. Yeah,
so I don't know. Well, I mean, did Marlon Mack look really good, or was Jacksonville just not up to task today?
Where I wonder, yeah. And then receiving-wise, there's nothing going on there. So just literally very boring. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with Mack there, that fractured hand, what that means for him. And, how many weeks he's going to miss. And I think do they play Thursday? I can't remember exactly, but I think he'll be out this next week for sure, but we'll wait and see. Jacksonville side, Foles, 296 yards, 2 touchdowns, a pick. Just kind of what you might expect from Foles, but Foles. DJ Chark with a good game, 8 for 104 and 2 touchdowns. So that was good to see that he can play like that with Foles because he hadn't done it yet. So good game from him.
Yeah, I mean, he might have been the bright spot on this offense today. They never got it going, and even Fournette, there was no room to run. 8 carries, 23 yards. He tried to save it with 7 receptions, so if you're in a PPR, you got a little bit of a boost, even though it was only for 34 on the receiving end of it. But that's kind of what I expected as far as, Foles coming in for his first start. I didn't expect them to catch the world on fire. The big takeaway from here, though, is the fact that DJ Chark, it wasn't because he had some great rapport with Minshew. Chark looks like the real deal. I mean, he was the only one able to get anything going. So if you have Chark, you have to feel really, really confident moving forward here.
Yeah, he's that good. He really is. He's a really good receiver, and it's showing. Next game, about Bills-Dolphins. Bills win 37-20. Josh Allen had a huge game for fantasy there. Threw 3 touchdowns, ran for another. I think he had about 39.8 points. Just a massive game. That's what playing Miami does for you.
Yep.
Then, Devin Singletary looked pretty decent on the ground. 15 carries, 75 yards. But again, it's Miami, so you should look good. Frank Gore didn't, but Singletary's definitely, I think, taken that backfield over as the main back. Most of the game, you see Singletary out there. Gore's in more, but Gore does come in around the goal line often, which is frustrating if you're a Singletary owner, but Singletary looks good.
Yeah, Singletary is going to be a very good option next year, especially. So if you are in a keeper league, Singletary is definitely one of those targets you want to look at because he hasn't completely broken out, but as we've said all year, you see the talent, you see how they're going to be able to use him, and that young core between Allen, him, and I don't actually know how young John Brown is because he's been around for a while, but he's also showing out, and it was against Miami, but man, did he have a game. 9 catches for 137 and 2 TDs.
Yeah, he's been fairly good this year, and then this just really took it to another level for him. Then Miami, there's just never anything to come away from Miami. Ballage, 9 carries, 9 yards, gets himself a touchdown. But Devontae Parker, 7 catches, 135 yards. He's like the lone bright spot there. He's been, decent for a while. Not great, but he's, there's just not much there. He's about it. And you won't expect that kind of game normally. Vikings, Broncos, go to that one. Vikings come back and get the win there. They were down big early and ended up winning 27-23 to, go to 8-3 on the year. Cousins, 319 yards, 3 touchdowns. Another decent fantasy day for him. Dalvin Cook really didn't get much going, but he got the touchdown on the ground to make it a decent day. But that was not the kind of game you're expecting from him. But
no, they got down so quick that they moved away from the run. I mean, he only got 11 carries. Obviously, he usually gets more. 5 catches for 31, but even on a game that just wasn't going his way, he still manages to pull it out for fantasy owners. So that's pretty impressive. But the other guy, who I'm glad that you kept repping for a while, but Diggs, because another big game for him. Only 5 catches, but he turns 5 catches into 121 yards and a touchdown. Yeah, big playability.
He had those last 2 weeks weren't very good, but he had the 3 huge games before that, and it comes back with another one. He's had a pretty good season, really. He puts up big games at times here. And then another guy, Kyle Rudolph's kind of come on here these last 2 weeks without Adam Thielen out there. Actually, last 3 weeks, touchdowns in 4 of the last 5 weeks, I guess you could say. He's up to that's 5 touchdowns those last weeks. That's pretty solid there. Again, though, it's only 5 for 67, but they have a bye week next week after that. But the thing is, I guess if Thielen's back, I don't know if this continues. I think it's a lot of it's to do without Adam Thielen. I don't think I'd trust Rudolph coming back from the bye.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. It was great if you were using him, but I think they probably go back to where they're comfortable, and Thielen gets a lot of attention.
For Denver, Phillip Lindsay got a lot more carries than Freeman today. Looked better, 16 for 67, but that's about it for him. And then really Courtland Sutton's about it. That stands out, 5 for 113. Just another good game for Courtland Sutton. He continues to play well.
Yeah. I mean, well
that's
said. Yeah, there's not a whole lot more to read into that.
Saints win 34-17. Drew Brees bounced back. The Saints bounced back after no touchdowns last week. It's 3 for 228 yards. And Michael Thomas caught one of them for 8 catches, 114 yards. Another just really good Michael Thomas day. He continues to do that. And then Alvin Kamara, a little more like what we would we're used to seeing from him, where his yardage is about 13 carries, 75 yards. That's normal. But 10 receptions, 47 yards. No touchdowns, but PPR-wise, that's a huge day with those 10 receptions.
Yeah, with Brees back, he is a monster in PPR, and I think it's only a matter of time before the touchdowns start following, and he turns back into the Kamara that we know and love.
And then for the Bucks, there's Jameis for you, 4 picks.
There we go. That's the Winston we love.
Ronald Jones, 4 carries, 13 yards.
Well, I know this it's shocking that there is 8 carries in the entire game. 2 of them was the quarterback.
Man, this team is just, I don't even know what to think about this team. Like, what do you think? Cameron Brate gets 10 catches.
I don't know. I mean, I think this is the perfect. I mean, New Orleans does have a very good defense. Let's not get that confused. But if you really want to just take Tampa Bay out of the game, you don't have to worry about their running that much. You literally, all you have to do is blanket Evans and Godwin and just make them dump it off to someone else because they won't be able to move the ball.
Yeah, Godwin got himself a touchdown, but only 47 yards on 3 catches. Evans 4 for 69. O.J. Howard gets 1 target in that thing. Peyton Barber caught a touchdown pass, got 2 passes, but didn't run the ball once. Man, this team, that's a weird team. It's hard to trust anybody on that team. You plug in, obviously, Evans and Godwin, but...
I was going to say, those 2 great, but everyone else, you're on your own. I mean, you're rolling the dice.
How about Jets, Redskins? Jets win 34-17. Darnold, 4 touchdowns.
All right, well, I think you called it. I think I was doubting Darnold, and then he comes out and has this giant game. I knew Washington was bad, but I didn't think they were quite this bad. 33.4 points in standard.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what to make of it. It doesn't tell me anything really. It just tells me how bad Washington is.
I mean, and then Le'Veon Bell gets himself a touchdown, but he has not been impressive on the ground this year.
No.
At all.
No, and even worse, I mean, Bilal Powell comes in. He gets only 7 carries and, obviously not in primetime game situations, but he makes 42 yards out of it. Bell's over there with 18 and only gets 59. I still like Bell. They're going to use him a ton, but this is kind of the worry. I don't know. I'm not sure what to make of this. It seems like everyone kind of their stats are just blown sky high because of the type of game it was. Who do you actually believe in? Like, who would coming down the stretch? Would you use anyone on this team?
In Bell, I mean, that's it though. But because you're getting with Bell, I think at least you have like a floor. He's going to get a lot of work, and he's going to get himself most likely about 8 points in standard. Typically, he's been in double digits the last 3 weeks, but it's just not been pretty. The rest of I'm not trusting any of these receivers though. I don't. Even though Crowder's been, decent for 3 weeks in a row, I have a hard time trusting Jamison Crowder. I really do. Even though, the matchups are great though. After Oakland, it's Cincinnati and Miami, but man, I don't trust Jamison Crowder. I don't know. Maybe it's a bias for some reason.
No, and it's hard to take anything seriously as well because they do have the easiest schedule of all time. The last 3 games that we can look at, if you're looking at anyone's stats, Miami, New York Giants, and then Washington. You hit Oakland, but then Cincinnati, Miami again. But it's still, even with that, I can't put my recommendation behind anyone. The only person on here that interests me at all, and it's only because you might have a very difficult time finding a tight end or something. In one of those situations, Ryan Griffin has been insanely up and down. If you look at his numbers, he goes from, even back in week 6, catches 1 touchdown, there wasn't much there, and then absolutely nothing. 1 catch for 1 yard, then 4 for 66 and 2 touchdowns against Jacksonville, then 6 for 50, which is okay for a tight end against Miami. New York Giants, 1 for -2, and then he comes out against Washington, 5 for 109 and a touchdown. Is he someone, if you're really, really hurting, would you feel okay starting him against, say, a Cincinnati, Miami?
Yeah, probably. It's a lot to do with the tight end position's just poor, but yeah, I'd feel okay with it. He's had a couple decent games, and there's not a lot of options, so.
No, and that was enough to make him the number 1 tight end this week.
Yeah,
so
crazy. How about the Redskins? I guess Haskins, he was better today. I guess he wasn't good, but
he was okay.
There's signs that he can be a quarterback. At least. Other than that, though, it's hard to get going. This team's just not good. Geis did get a 45-yard touchdown catch, which was nice to see, but it's going to be a split with him and Peterson most likely. It's hard to want to use any of these guys. Terry McLaurin got 3 for 69, but it's still going to be hit or miss right now. Just not a great team.
Yeah, I think if you need a running back, you can try Peterson, Geis. But I think it's time to hang it up on Washington in general. I just don't feel good about it. I don't know what they're going to be doing now that they're 1-9. More than likely they're probably playing for that top pick. So, I wouldn't feel good playing anyone.
Then Falcons, Panthers. Falcons have all of a sudden been good 2 weeks in a row and win 29-3. Matt Ryan, 311 yards, only 1 touchdown. So his fantasy day is not great. The running game, they did run it with Brian Hill 15 times. Only got 30 yards out of it. Olison's the one who got the touchdown there. But Hill did have a touchdown that was called back for holding, which was disappointing for those who used him.
Well, I did obviously they were trying to figure out who they're going to rush the ball with. They give it to Hill, but they rushed it with 7 different people. So it's kind of funny. As soon as they were like, I don't know who to rush it, they're like, we'll try everyone.
Then, a good game from Calvin Ridley, 8 for 143 to touchdown, and Julio 6 for 91. Not overly impressive, but
I love that we can say that about Julio. Anyone else gets 91 yards, and we're like, he had a very good day.
For the Panthers, Kyle Allen was bad.
Oh, very, very bad.
But man, Christian McCaffrey, 14 for 70 on the ground, but 11 catches for 121 yards.
I know, and that's the strangest part. Like, Allen was really bad, but he still managed to get 325 yards passing, but he threw 4 interceptions. So, I mean, they had to keep throwing the ball with him because Atlanta was scoring. But my gosh, I'm actually surprised no one else. I mean, it kind of is exactly what you think it's going to be, right? Samuel kind of goes back to his up and down ways that I can never get behind. But as soon as I say that, he'll have a big next week. Olsen 5 for 57, DJ Moore 8 for 95. So kind of what you expected, but very impressive they were able to get that many yards with only 3 points on the board.
Yeah, DJ Moore, I wish he could just get in the end zone because the guy's getting targets every week. And these last 3 games have been pretty solid. 8 for 95, 9 for 120, 7 for 101. You add touchdowns to those and they're huge. It's just not going to get that right now. And I mean, 15 targets today. So, but yeah, this Kyle Allen, those who thought Kyle Allen is going to replace Cam Newton, I hope they don't do that next year. It wouldn't be a good decision, I don't feel like. Kyle Allen's not the answer there.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll find out. It's too early to tell. He's a young guy, but I think Cam will be back.
How about Ravens beating up on the Houston 41-7?
Yeah, this one got embarrassing.
Man, Lamar Jackson is just really good, I would say.
Yeah, he is the real deal. And every time you think that he is going to turn into just a running quarterback, like that's where, his talent lies, he goes and he throws 4 touchdowns. And you're like, okay, well, I guess he'll just take whatever the defense gives him. Not a ton of passing yards, and he's very efficient. Once again, 17 for 24, so they don't make him throw the ball a ton. But when he's out there, man, he makes every single one count.
Man, he's ridiculously good. It's crazy. Then Mark Ingram led him with 13 carries for 48 yards, caught 3 for 37 in 2 touchdowns receiving, which was huge. But then Gus Edwards, 8 carries for 112. And like we said in our waiver wire last week, Gus Edwards is the guy you have to pick up because if Ingram were to go down for some reason, Edwards is going to step in and be good.
Yeah, very good, obviously.
you can see it. You need to pick him up if you don't have him. If you're an Ingram owner, you better have Gus Edwards on your team. Then Mark Andrews, another solid game, 4 for 75 and a touchdown. But that was it. It was Andrews and Ingram. Andrews and Ingram receiving, they just spread the ball around all over the place there.
Yeah, I mean, how do you game plan for this team? It is ridiculously tough just to game plan for Lamar Jackson, let alone all the other pieces, because there's not just one main guy they go to. On the other side of the ball, though, yeah, they did know who they were going to, and they shut him down because, Watson could not. He hasn't looked this poor in a very long time. He's a very good quarterback, but they just squeezed him. I mean, he had nowhere to go. Only 169 yards and an interception, nothing else. Sacked 6 times each.
Yeah, just a bad game there for Houston all around. I mean, Hyde salvaged it with I think a 45-yard touchdown, but he only ended up with 9 carries, 65 yards. So he made that worthwhile. I mean, Hopkins 7 for 80, not the worst day.
Yeah, Hopkins did fine, but yeah. But other than that, they couldn't get anything going.
Baltimore's just really good, it looks like.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun to watch them down the stretch in the playoffs.
Then 49ers beat the Cardinals 36-26. They got a last-second touchdown there when Cardinals are trying to do all the laterals and their defense scores a touchdown. So probably turned some games there, which is always good to see. Garoppolo throws 4 touchdowns, 424 yards. Deebo Samuel, 8 for 134. Another
big game. What are you thinking about him? I mean, we loved him early on. We weren't sure where he was going to fit in with all these wide receivers, but he's definitely established himself as a primetime guy. Do you think he's the top option now?
As long as Sanders is limited with his rib injury, yeah, I think it's going to be there. Sanders, I think he's definitely hurt. He wasn't quite right there, and man, I think he's gonna be pretty good. I'd feel pretty confident about him right now. He's a rookie starting to come into his own right now. I think it's happening for him. He looks good out there. Yeah, so I'd play him. 11 targets last week, 10 targets this week. Week before that even, he had 7, so you could start to see the uptick happening. Yeah, I like this. I like to play Deebo Samuel. And then on the ground, the team that we always think is just going to, no matter who you throw out there, is going to be great on the ground. They just weren't today.
No, I mean, they were quite the opposite. It wasn't even like an average day. I mean, 18 carries between Coleman and Mostert. And, they almost didn't average over, together, they probably averaged less than 1.5 yards per carry. It was really, really poor.
It was ugly on that side. But, hey, it's just the way this game went for some reason. It ended up being through the air. And then Jeff Wilson catches a touchdown randomly. And,
that's okay.
Ross Dwelly gets himself 2 touchdowns filling in for Kittle. So,
yeah,
there we go. How about Raiders beat the Bengals 17-10? Derek Carr was hopefully going to have a better game than this. He thought this was a great matchup. And, he got a rushing touchdown to make it okay, but 292, only one throwing touchdown. You expected kind of a bigger game, but I guess they didn't. I don't want to say they didn't need to. It was a close game. It's just they could have played better. I don't know. But it's still fine. They get the win, and his numbers aren't bad, 25-29. It's just thought maybe a little bit extra there, but not today. But Josh Jacobs continues to be really good. 23 carries, 112. I definitely underrated him coming into the season. He's been a good running back, and I don't know. I didn't see it coming, but he's just been solid every week. If the opening game was like, if you even look at yards per carry, his opening week, which he still had 85 yards running, 28 receiving, and 2 running touchdowns, was his worst day with yards per carry of 3.7. Other than that, he hasn't been worse than 4.3. He gets a lot of carries, and he gets a good yards per carry with it. He's good.
Yeah, Oakland in general has surprised me, especially after the AB fiasco. I didn't have high hopes for them, but the fact that they're over 500, they're competing. I assumed Josh Jacobs was going to be able to get the lion's share of the carries, but you never knew if this team was going to be down a lot and if they were going to abandon the run. But they make sure that they give him the ball every single game, make sure he's involved, and it's definitely working out for him. So it's kind of a fun team to watch. And Waller has come around, and Tyrell Williams, he had a kind of his usual game, no touchdown, but 4 for 82. So, they kind of all have their lanes now, and they know what they got to do.
Then Patriots beat the Eagles 17-10. This was actually, I don't know, kind of a boring game to me. It wasn't terribly exciting for some reason. Tom Brady, not much going on for him really. 216 yards, no touchdowns. Just Sony Michel, 10 carries, 33 yards. Not a lot for the Patriots today. They win, but fantasy-wise, it was kind of a disappointing day.
Yeah, fantasy, not a whole lot of fun, but I think this is kind of the brilliance of New England. The fact that, this is why they're 9-1. You get into this kind of game, and they just wear you down and whittle you away. It's kind of a sight to behold to win this type of game, because Philly has underachieved this year. In my eyes, I think that they should be better, but they're still no slouch, and they were able to hold that offense in check and only allow 10 points to get the win. My thought here, the only one that really surprised me, I do have to say Goddard did get the touchdown, not a lot of yards, but he is continuing to be very playable. So I'm just kind of watching that. But Miles Sanders, without Howard in the lineup, I was hoping that he was going to do more. And he wasn't bad. He just wasn't anything special.
Maybe that's just Patriots. It's a tough matchup for him. But yeah, he was just, you definitely wanted more from that. And it wasn't there today. But hopefully he continues to get chances here. And I'd like to see what he can do against a different team other than New England, maybe. Maybe it could be a little better. Then Ertz, another good game for Ertz, though. 9 for 94. 2 straight games with 11 targets. So he's, continued. Now his 2 games in a row, they've been pretty good, even though, Goddard gets himself a touchdown. Both are playable tight ends, obviously. Ertz for sure, but Goddard is 100% playable right now. You can keep, especially just the way the tight end position is. And then Wentz, though, just not a great game for Wentz. I don't know. He's just kind of not been great this year. I'll say. I don't know. For fantasy-wise, especially, these last 4 weeks have been actually really pretty disappointing. He hasn't been above 20 since week 6 in scoring. Only 3 or 4 games over 20 all year.
Yeah, I do have to say this. I think, what is he at right now? Currently, he is rostered 81%. So a lot of people still believe in him. But the thing I do like about Wentz is coming down the stretch here. especially if you're looking for like a backup QB or something like that, even though he's already owned in 81%, it looks like. But week 13, Miami, week 14, the Giants, week 15, Washington. That is a great stretch if you need to spell whoever, or if you're streaming, quarterback. So I do like that. I think the road gets easier because he just came off a pretty brutal run from, Dallas, Buffalo, Chicago, New York, and you're about to hit Seattle. So some of it is he's just not himself, and he doesn't quite have the wide receivers around him all the time. They've been banged up, as Philly usually does. But I think his luck is about to take a major turn come week 13.
And then final game of the night, Rams beat the Bears 17-7. And the Rams just came out and tried to run the ball this time. 25 carries for Gurley. They finally just gave him the ball there, but turned 97 yards. He looked really good early, and then Bears kind of adjusted and it slowed down a bit. He did get himself one touchdown there. Malcolm Brown gets the other on the ground. Gurley had 36 receiving yards, which, it's kind of almost sad though in a way that we see this numbers from Gurley. We're like, oh yeah, it's a good game finally, which last year this just would have been, it would have been fine.
Oh yeah, I know. But yeah, I mean, maybe this is what they're thinking though. They kind of save him up, and now that they're making this push, they knew they needed this win. I don't know. Do you think at what point do you think that they're actually going to give Gurley the ball more?
I think they have to now because they don't trust Goff right now.
Yeah, not including this game. They gave it to him a ton.
But they don't trust Goff anymore, I don't think. He just didn't look good again. And I think they gotta make this a running game to, especially, Baltimore next week. I can't see Goff having a good game against Baltimore. They need to run the ball, and they need to get themselves in the playoffs. They can't lose that game. So
yeah, I think that's the scariest part. That's why I'm kind of wondering at what point do you just bail on trying to save him and say we have a small window in order to make sure that we keep all of our key, young guys intact and move forward. I think everyone just kind of thought that the Rams were a lock for the playoffs, and it is proving to be a little more difficult.
Yeah, they just need to go now, use them. Especially like with Robert Woods was out tonight. Brandon Cooks is out, but then even Cooper Kupp really didn't get going. 3 for 53, and 50 of those yards were on one play. So not a lot going other than that. They're just going to have to run the ball and hope for the best with Gurley, I think. That's what they're going to need to do to be any kind of successful. But, it wasn't as hard tonight because the Bears just aren't good either. Trubisky's isn't good either.
No, yeah. Unfortunately, another very poor game.
Yeah, there's nothing really much to take away from this team. Montgomery, 14 carries, 31 yards. It just seems to be that's what he is. If he doesn't get the touchdown with it, it's a bad game. He's just going to, like we talked about Josh Jacobs and how he was over 4 yards per carry like every game. And Montgomery's only been above that 2 times this entire year. He's usually in the 2s. So he needs touchdowns to deliver. It's just not happening. This Bears team isn't really good. So just Allen Robinson, 4 for 15, really disappointing. Thought they might have a little better game than that, but no, Bears just aren't good either. Just bad quarterbacking, I guess.
Yeah, and even more so, I really want to look this up, but Cohen getting 9 carries out of nowhere, kind of, because he's topped out at 5 to get 9 today. I don't know. It's one of those things with Montgomery too. If they just think that they have to be more dynamic and they want to, give it to someone who is like Cohen, who's not a typical running back, but obviously great in space. I'm starting to wonder if this is not that they're going to go away from Montgomery, but if they're going to try to incorporate more of Cohen, which in turn will hurt Montgomery's production possibly.
Well, part of it might be the ankle injury Montgomery had coming in, but it's still 14 carries for him. Isn't really.
Yeah, it's not like they held back on him.
Yeah, they really didn't. So I don't know. They did. Cohen was out there at the beginning, like right away, and I think they need to use him more. They need to do more things like that to make this more of an interesting offense. Right now, they're not.
Oh, I agree. He's the one that caught the touchdown as well. So with him in the backfield, it does give them, the offense different looks. At least the defense has to plan for him because Montgomery is going to be charging up the middle. At least that's how they've used him lately. He can catch the ball, but it's not really how they've been using him.
And then, yeah, because right now, David Montgomery isn't any better than Jordan Howard was. That's for sure. He's not at all. But All right, I think that will do it for Week 11 recap. We'll be back tomorrow with some waiver wire for Week 12 as we get to the final 2 weeks of the regular season. We'll talk to you guys then.